Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue exploring contemporary Chinese expressions that I dedicated to every last month of the year, um, because I want to preserve new emerging expressions before they may or may not stay with us. Language expressions come and go. Okay, so this is the hottest ones. Through these expressions, we can also have a little sneak view of how Chinese societal sentiment feels like today. Okay, 小孩, 哥 or 姐. Simply say little child, brother or sister. Okay, I used it. Super simple English expression, bro or sis. All right. 小孩哥姐 describe this phenomenon of a little young kid have beyond their age appropriate or warranted, supported, or supposedly expected level of emotional intelligence or social skills, like their people skill, their way of understanding older folks, or their behavior mostly. I mean, for kids, mostly they copy their parents, and they may exhibit beyond their age savviness or sophistication. That's, on the one hand, is positivity. On the other hand, they lose their innocence too quick. Like the way they exhibit their behavior, kind of lose, like make them feel older than they should, like they worry too much or something like that, right? Okay, so 小孩哥姐 describes such, it's not exactly prodigy, not a positive way. I don't think so. It's simply observing this phenomenon, and I guess in English culture as well, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, raised on social media era, that they kind of grow out of their age like a little bit too soon. Like they were exposed to contents, to all kinds of weird humanness. It's a little bit too early, right? So they kind of probably talk like older than they should talk or speak. Okay, 小孩, how each of this concept expressed. We can see a lot almost because this 小孩, little child, right? Brother or sister, is about human relationship. And a Chinese language designed by human, for human, about human, is basically measuring everything from our first person perspective, like our eyeballs looking from our one and only skull. Like this is our only perspective. And Chinese acknowledge that. And I have that in mind when interpret this language, how it constructs different concepts. 小, little. Okay. In Chinese, this little is both little or small. So English have little or small. And for Chinese learners, we just have 小. And when we learn English as a second language, took us quite some efforts to differentiate when to use small, when to use little. It's okay. It says something about the two language. Okay, so we Chinese, things get simple, and let's just say the two languages treat different granularity levels at different concepts. So 小, this little or small in Chinese, we just have 小. It's expressed by comparing something as smaller than the original by cutting something into two pieces. So the middle vertical line is cutting, and then two pieces. So that implies before and after contrast. Before cutting, it's supposed to be like this, and after cutting into two pieces, and now the new status quo, each individual piece is separated by this vertical line, is guaranteed to be smaller than the original piece. So it must be like a guaranteed mathematically, visually, guaranteed to be smaller than the original piece. And Chinese use this relativity to express this concept of little or small, that in language we hardly think about it. It all comes from relative term, because when we think about it, something is little, It's comparing to a norm. We call them little child simply because they are physically, mentally, everything smaller than full-grown adults. So language is used by mostly literate people use the language, right? And when people acquire full literacy, they are adults. And adult language users would use them as the benchmark. And everything comes smaller than them, they will say little child. It's simply because we're comparing them to this default that nobody talks about. Okay, Hai is made of this infant image. The Chinese express it very visually, just big head, circular big head, one full body without the legs, but with two arms reaching up. So it's kind of like a toddler imagery. And then the right side simply is mom and dad spooning the dad spooning the mom almost. So this pregnancy, this bump expressed over there. So it's man, woman together, making the very man, woman creation thing. And then there's two horizontal lines in Chinese, we express that as heaven, earth, our existence, upper and lower boundary. And between heaven and earth, men and women reproduce. This is that imagery. And this reproduction plus this toddler, simply child, making sense, right? It's like a pre-pregnancy, pre-delivery. So this is pregnancy to delivered, like two stages, both expressed here. Okay, 哥 and 姐, both concepts we talked about before in this year, actually, when we were talking about human relationships, all kinds of terms in Chinese. And it's quite fun to unpack how Chinese conceptualize this relationship. Because in Chinese, we have differentiation not only gender, but the sequence of your relative position in your family. Is it an older brother or younger brother? See, English, we have to use older and younger to further define the brotherhood, brother relationship to you. But in Chinese, we have dedicated term for what is brother. And we actually have older brother, several older brother concepts or characters. Okay, over here, this particular one is contemporary, commonly used older brother. First off, it looks tall, right? Two of them stack up together. Okay, each of them, this means 可, means permission. And this came from this divine whisperer, let's say. So ancient times, I guess, humans have to survive in a way harder environment than our today's technology kind of provided this modern comfort life that's not existing in ancient times. So this praying, this communication to divinity to gain favor, to make our species survive. That was a need, a necessity. So this simply talks about this mouse symbol means human speaking there and speaking upward. So this puff of air, this curvature thing, is puff of air from humans. We're speaking to this top line frame, that's heaven. Just like this heaven, earth, two lines, heaven, earth, upper, lower boundary. And here only upper boundary. And then we speak to our upper bound, which, divinity, God, however you want to view it, from ancient, prehistoric, even pre-Paleolithic age, humans, we do that. And together, two of them means multitudes of them are what? Are singing the ancient ways of communicating to divinity comes in musical form, because to draw attention to the gods, right, we better make it sound good. And I guess that's why, like in Christianity or in all kinds of religions, the music is a big part of it. That's some scholars even argue that music creation using our voice to unanimously, so it's louder to be heard, um, is the first emerging, like even emerging before language, that we have to be able to survive by communicating with something beyond our control. Okay, so there's two of them singing, and that means brother. How come? Okay, my unpacking is that this is two of them. Two of them, each individual means permission, means you can into this language. And who in a household give permission is the older brother, because there is a hierarchy in a household. Male, oldest male in that generation, in that brood, is going to be taking the role of this yes or no judge for younger siblings. So that's why it's that. But I'm telling you, this came from the singing first. And my other theory is not only is it a permission guy, and probably if down to household level, if the brother, I mean, if the household speak to divinity, the older brother probably is the role taker. The older brother represent the whole household, because probably it produces the loudest sound, right? And it's also a status. By status, is the oldest male, then it's going to be the communicator. Okay, sister, how the sister came from? Okay, originally the sister means mother, actually. The left means gender, female, also unmarried woman, ancient times. And the right side is associated with the wooden block placed on your ancestor table. So we all know Chinese worship ancestors. So there was this not only communication with divinity, but communication with your past loved ones, especially, I mean, Chinese is a hierarchical society, so probably they will worship the biggest social ladder climber throughout their ancestry. And they keep note of in which generation so and so becomes what and what. And that person has that high status person will be the inspiration and the protector and the guider. So almost like a Christianity's God's role transferred to this biologically linked to this family, the same bloodline, right? And then they would imagine this older ancestor or their protector or their, wisdom whisperer through dreams or whatever. And so this tablet placed on the table was where they are supposed to be. And all the ancestors, I mean, I guess meaningful for you, and I guess later generations, because after, I guess, dozens or scores of past generations and more tablets, right, over there will be a curation process, and therefore the biggest shots in your past history would be placed in bigger, prominent positions. My guess is because by the time I was born, that history, that tradition already wiped out. Okay, communist China doesn't allow worship of anything, only them, and only in particularly like Mao, like that one individual person. Okay, so little bits of that. This worship, this shape is associated, therefore, with ancestor, and this is female ancestor. Female ancestor in your family hierarchy would be pointed to mother, and eventually this mother image associated with older woman. So it's not only a sister, probably even like your aunties, any older senior female. And in today's context, it's simply your sister. Hierarchy flattened to, okay, just your generation. You don't get to see like 4 generation households much more. So 小孩哥 or 小孩姐 probably most equivalent to English old soul, even if this old soul probably more about introspective, like you just have that wisdom, kind of precocious wisdom, and you show it, right? Probably it's early childhood suffering bring wisdom. So it's everybody got their own different portion of that in their early childhood. So some naturally produce old souls versus 小孩哥姐 probably is Chinese phenomenon of this younger kids imitating adult behavior and they look old, older than their age group. All right. Thank you for your time. See you next day.